The book of Enoch exposes everything, what the elite still try to hide about the firmament, and the first thing it destroys is the comfortable belief that the Bible is quietly describing the same universe you see in a modern science book. Because when I went back to the beginning, to Genesis, I did not find empty space. I found a boundary, a divider, a constructed line that separates what is below from what is above. Genesis says there were waters, and then God made something in the middle. Not a vibe, not a metaphor you can shrug off, something placed between waters and waters. And the text gives it a name that sounds harmless until you actually look at it. Rakia. I remember the moment that word stopped being religious language and started sounding like architecture, because rakia comes from a verb that pictures something being beaten out, spread thin, forged into a surface, the kind of word you use when you hammer metal into a sheet. It is the kind of word that makes you pause and ask a dangerous question. How do you separate waters above from waters below without something that holds the separation? And that is where the shock begins. Because Genesis does not only say there are waters on earth, it implies waters above the rakia, above the expanse, above the firmament. However you translate it, the logic stays the same. There is a below, and there is an above. And something stands between them like a ceiling no one wants to talk about. Now imagine living in that world. You look up and you do not see infinite nothingness. You see a limit, a boundary God set, a structure that says you are not your own God, a sky that is not just scenery, but a statement. So why does this feel so unfamiliar to us now? Why does the word get softened in our minds until it becomes a poetic fog? And why does the moment you take it seriously, people rush in to mock you before you even finish the question? If that question is already stirring something in you, do not ignore it. Stay with me. And if you want more videos where I dig into what most people never slow down long enough to read, tap like and subscribe, because what comes next is where the story turns from ancient poetry into a guided tour of the heavens. Because Genesis gives you the blueprint, but Enoch claims he saw the machinery. When I stepped into the book of Enoch, the tone changed immediately. Genesis shows the ceiling. Enoch claims he walked beneath it. He does not look up and speculate. He is taken, led, guided. And what he describes does not feel symbolic, it feels operational. Enoch says he was carried through the heavens and shown how the world above actually works. Not as a philosophy, not as a sermon, as a system. And that is unsettling. Because in his account, the sky is not open wilderness. It is organized space, governed space, space with rules that cannot be broken without consequences. He speaks of gates, real gates, openings positioned at fixed locations where the sun enters and exits, where the moon follows its assigned path, where the winds are released, each from its own chamber, each with a purpose. Nothing drifts, nothing wanders. As I read those passages, I realized something important. You cannot have gates without walls. You cannot have exits without an enclosure. And you cannot have regulated movement unless there is a structure that defines where movement is allowed. Enoch is explicit. The luminaries do not roam freely, they obey. When they fail to obey, they are judged. Stars are not just lights in the distance, they are actors within a governed order. Some fall, some are bound, some are imprisoned for leaving their appointed paths. That detail should stop you cold, because this is not how we talk about the universe anymore. We talk about randomness, about accidents, about endless expansion with no center and no ceiling. But Enoch describes a cosmos with borders, with accountability, with oversight. He is shown the storehouses of the winds, the chambers of snow and hail, places where elements wait until they are commanded to move. This is not mythic chaos. This is logistics. And here is the part that stayed with me long after I closed the text. Enoch never acts surprised. He never questions whether this system should exist. He only marvels that he was allowed to see it, which raises an uncomfortable question. If the ancient world assumed the heavens were structured and ruled, why are we so certain they were wrong? And if this worldview once shaped how humanity understood its place beneath God, what changed when that ceiling quietly disappeared? Because once you remove the firmament, you remove something else with it. You remove the sense of being contained, watched, accountable. And that is where the story begins to get dangerous. As I kept digging, I realized Enoch was not alone. His vision had echoes, quiet ones, scattered across the Bible like fragments of a map no one bothers to assemble anymore. I went to the book of Job, and suddenly the language sharpened. God speaks, not gently, but with force. He asks if the heavens can be spread out, strong like a mirror of cast metal. That line does not float, it lands hard. Because mirrors of cast metal are not clouds, they are solid, they reflect, they resist. And the question is not poetic fluff, it is a challenge. As if God is saying, do you even understand what you are standing under? Job speaks of the pillars of heaven trembling. Pillars, not vibes, not metaphors that dissolve when examined. Pillars imply weight, support, load-bearing reality. Then I turned to the Psalms, and the pattern continued. The heavens are stretched out, established, set in place. God lays beams. He sets foundations. He walks above the circle of the earth. Above, not within, not lost in infinity. Isaiah joins the chorus. He describes God spreading out the heavens like a curtain, dwelling above the earth, looking down upon its inhabitants. The language repeats itself until it becomes impossible to ignore. This is not a random collection of metaphors. It is a shared imagination, a common cosmology, a worldview where the sky is not nothing, it is something. And then there is the flood, because the flood only makes sense if Genesis means what it says. The fountains of the deep burst open, and the windows of heaven are opened, not space. Windows, something above releases what it was holding. That detail haunted me, because if the waters above are imaginary, then the opening of the windows is meaningless. But if the firmament is a barrier, then the flood becomes a cosmic failure of containment, a breach. And suddenly Enoch's world and Genesis' world and Job's world are the same world. a layered reality. Earth below, waters above, a structure in between, governed by laws, enforced by command. So I had to ask myself a question I was never encouraged to ask. What if the ancients were not ignorant? What if they were describing the universe the only way it could be described, from inside a closed system? And what if the discomfort we feel when reading these texts comes not from their confusion, but from their clarity? Because clarity demands a response. And once you start seeing the pattern, you cannot unsee it. At that point, I stopped asking what Enoch believed, and I started asking what happened to his book, because something strange sits at the center of this story. The book of Enoch was not hidden in a cave by accident. It was read, copied, studied, preserved. Fragments of it were found among the Dead Sea Scrolls, resting beside texts no one questions today. That alone should make you pause. This book lived in the bloodstream of Second Temple Judaism, the same world Jesus was born into, the same world the apostles breathed in, and yet today most believers are told it is fringe, dangerous, not worth opening. That contradiction bothered me, especially when I noticed how often New Testament language sounds like Enoch without naming him. The idea of rebellious stars, of angels bound in darkness, of a coming judgment where hidden things are exposed. These are not random parallels, they are shared vocabulary. And yet, when the Bible was later formalized, Enoch quietly slipped out of the conversation. Not burned, not condemned with fanfare, just set aside, except in one place. The Ethiopian church never let it go. For them, Enoch remained scripture, read openly, preserved faithfully. While the rest of the world moved on, they kept the ceiling in place. That alone should make you wonder, because canon decisions are not made in a vacuum. They are shaped by culture, philosophy, and pressure, by what fits, and by what complicates things. A cosmos with a firmament is complicated. It suggests limits, boundaries. A universe that is not endlessly open, but intentionally ordered. And that kind of universe changes how you see yourself. It changes how power works. And if you are finding this thread as unsettling as I did, this is exactly the kind of conversation we keep alive here. So take a moment, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me. Because now we are stepping into the modern world, and the resistance to this idea becomes much louder. Because once the firmament disappears, something else quietly vanishes with it. Accountability. When the modern world arrived, the ceiling did not collapse. It was redefined. The language changed first. Firmament became expanse. Structure became atmosphere. Boundary became metaphor. And slowly, without an argument most people ever noticed, the universe transformed from a ruled domain into an open accident. I remember realizing that this shift was not only scientific, it was philosophical. A universe without a ceiling has no center, no above, no below, no throne, and more importantly, no sense of being enclosed within someone else's order. In the ancient worldview, you lived inside creation. You were contained, watched, measured. In the modern worldview, you float in endless space, small, accidental, unaccountable. That change matters, because a closed, governed cosmos implies authority. It implies that laws are not just physical, but moral. That movement, whether of stars or of people, has consequences. This is where the tension sharpens. I'm not saying science is evil. I'm not saying telescopes are lies. But I'm saying that worldviews compete. And the worldview that removed the firmament also removed the idea that humanity lives under something. And once that idea is gone, control becomes easier. Institutions prefer predictable populations. Predictable populations prefer simple narratives. And nothing is simpler than telling people they live in an infinite void where nothing ultimately watches and nothing ultimately judges. A universe without a ceiling is comforting and dangerous. Because when ancient texts are read through modern assumptions, they sound ridiculous. And ridicule is a powerful silencer. You do not have to ban an idea if you can make it laughable. So, the firmament was not attacked directly. It was translated out of existence, redefined until it no longer challenged anyone. And that is why even asking the question feels rebellious today. Why did the ancients describe the sky as something solid, structured and ruled? And why does that description make so many people uncomfortable now? Because discomfort is often the first sign that something important is being touched. And this is where everything converges. Because once you allow the possibility that the firmament was understood as real, not symbolic, not poetic fog, but a true boundary, then the story changes again, not just cosmologically, spiritually. If the heavens are structured, then reality is structured. If reality is structured, then truth is not flexible. And if truth is not flexible, then power does not belong to whoever controls the loudest voice. It belongs to whoever designed the system. That realization hit me hard because it reframes everything: history, scripture, authority, even the way we look up at the sky. So I will leave you with this challenge. Do not rush to accept what I am saying, but do not dismiss it either. Read the texts, read Genesis slowly, read Job without modern filters. Read Enoch as a knowledge document of ancient world, not a joke. And ask yourself why this worldview was once common and is now treated as unthinkable. If this video stirred something in you, let me know. Write the word Rakia in the comments, and I will heart your comment personally. Share this video with someone who still believes the Bible only speaks in metaphors. And click the next video on your screen, because this journey does not end at the ceiling. It begins there.